Hey guys, it's Becky with Design Bundles, and today I'm happy to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, which is sublimation. Now, what I want to talk to you about today, first of all, if you have not checked out our introduction video to sublimation, make sure you do that now. That's kind of a prerequisite video to what we're going to talk about here. But if you are looking to get into sublimation, one of the most common questions that you're going to ask: do I buy a Sawgrass printer or do I convert an Epson printer? Now, let me also say, I personally own a converted Epson printer. I've owned several of them. And I have not owned a Sawgrass sublimation printer. But luckily, we all have a lot of crafty friends, and I have crafty friends that I have polled and we have compared notes, and we are happy to bring to you a comparison of Sawgrass versus Epson. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really think you will be disappointed with the Sawgrass, but the Epson has a lot of benefits in its favor. So let's go ahead and put them head to head and get started. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and talk to you about a Sawgrass first. Now, Sawgrass has different models depending on if you need regular format or wide format. They also come with different budgets. There are a lot of really great benefits to owning a Sawgrass. First of all, Sawgrass printers are pretty much plug and play, all right? You will go to a reputable Sawgrass dealer and you will talk to them about purchasing your printer, or maybe you'll purchase a printer through their website. When your printer comes in, there's going to be a ton of support to help you get started. As a matter of fact, there are sublimation vendors out there that will actually remote into your computer and help you get the whole thing set up from beginning to end. Okay, you really can't ask for better support than that. So if that is something that really matters to you a lot, is the level of support, then Sawgrass is the way to go. And it's probably my favorite feature about Sawgrass. Being plug and play is already great, but knowing that somebody has my back, that is a really great feeling to have. Sawgrass also, they are known for having a very long lifespan. So I actually know a lot of crafters who have Ricoh printers, okay, which from what I understand is the earlier version of the Sawgrass printers, and they are still going strong. So don't feel like the Sawgrass, you're going to look at the price tag and you're going to say, well, it's more expensive. It's a more expensive option. Well, it is, but that may be a worthy investment. And I'm going to ask you some questions later on down the road that hopefully will help you decide. All right. So don't worry too much about the price tag right now. We'll get to that soon. But you do pay for these additional features. It'll just be up to you whether you decide that they are worthwhile or not. So another thing is that Sawgrass has their own creative studio in which you can use to seamlessly print to your Sawgrass printer. Now, there are a lot of Sawgrass owners that print from other software, so you do not have to use Creative Studio. But if you're brand new to working with graphics and design, it's really nice to have that software provided for you because you don't have to go out and tackle that on your own. So again, just a really great feature to support you in your beginning sublimation journey. So let's talk about Epson printers. So the first and foremost, the most reason why people venture into converting an Epson printer is because it is very budget friendly. Now, there is a wide format Epson printer that is meant for sublimation and comes with a matching price tag. But what we're talking about when we refer to Epson are desktop printers that are converted to accept sublimation ink. Now, it's not as complicated as you think. I won't go into too many specifics because, it can really drone on. But to give you just a quick comparison, they are budget-friendly printers, and the ink is also very budget-friendly. So what that means is that if this is something you are looking into starting, then you can help keep your startup costs low by working with an Epson instead of purchasing a Sawgrass. Now, that comes with a few drawbacks. The primary is that you get very little support outside of Facebook groups and YouTube videos. Now, of course, individual to individual help is really great, but it's not going to be the same quality of help and the same easy fixes or warranty that you're going to get if you were to purchase a Sawgrass. Now, also speaking of warranty, Epson, because sublimation ink is not intended, Epson does not intend to run sublimation ink through these printers. Epson does not provide phone support or warranty once they find out that you have installed sublimation ink on your Epson. Now, I've personally not had to call them, but that is hearsay in the Epson sublimation groups. But you can, if you're really on the fence about the Epson, there are Epson sublimation groups completely devoted to working and troubleshooting Epson printers. So you can get a better idea of what type of troubleshooting obstacles you may run into. So that is really a big deciding factor, is how tech savvy and patient are you? All right, the Epsons, they do not have the long lifespan that you're going to get with a Sawgrass, and it falls back on you to be able to do the troubleshooting that goes along with it. To give you just a little bit of personal experience, I'm actually on my 3rd Epson printer, but because the price tag is so significantly cheaper than the Sawgrass, I find that if I get a couple years out of an Epson printer, I am really happy with it because I've paid about 1/10 of what I would pay for a Sawgrass. So just one thing to really keep in mind, you are making some pretty big sacrifices what you're giving up versus if you were to buy a true sublimation printer by going with a Sawgrass. Okay. So you have kind of a quick pros and cons list of both printers. And in my mind, I have them sitting here for you, ready to duel it out. But really, it comes down to you and what your needs are, what your capabilities are, okay? Because there are a couple important questions that you have to ask yourself before you decide, do I want to invest in a Sawgrass or do I want to start with an Epson? All right, first and foremost, is budget a factor? For a lot of crafters, we craft on a budget, and that was the biggest factor for me. I was not in a position where investing in a wide format Sawgrass printer was something I was wanting or able to do. All right. Now, what that means is that I actually lucked out and I already had an Epson, so my startup costs were extremely low. All right. So if budget is a factor, then Epson is usually going to be the way you're going to want to start out. But if you are willing to make that investment in yourself, then Sawgrass will get you up and going faster. Usually will get you up and going faster with better initial results. So I'll be anxious to see what my Epson users have to say about that. But the next question to ask yourself is, am I able or am I willing to troubleshoot this printer on my own? Am I okay with the fact that I do not have a support line that I can call and have somebody help me through any issues that I may be going through? It completely rests on me. So for example, I had an Epson that kept getting a paper jam error. So I researched for days and weeks, and I'll be honest with you, I never did find out what the problem was, and I had to bite the bullet and buy a new Epson if I wanted to keep sublimating. I let that printer sit for about 6 months, and I donated it to a friend of mine who has a techie husband. And I said, hey, if you can get this printer going, you can have it. And of course, she's like, Becky, I plugged it in and it works great. I don't know what the problem was. So, sometimes there's just no easy answer, and you have to know that all of that rests on you. And probably the most important question is, am I using this for a business or for a hobby? All right, I always tell people, if you are sure, if you are starting a business that is sublimation or adding it to your existing business to where you are going to have customers relying on you for finished products, you are going to want to invest in a Sawgrass. The reason I say that is because the Epsons can be quirky. All right, there could be times where I may not be able to print for days, and then all of a sudden it starts printing perfectly good. All right, because I've had to go through these steps to troubleshoot it. The Sawgrass also has like a self-maintenance system where it just kind of takes care of itself, and the reliability is just through the roof. All right, you can, I won't say always, no piece of machinery is 100% reliable, but this is as reliable as you can get, and you're going to get that warranty and that support system that's going to help you out as your business. All right, so when money is on the line and I have my customers asking me for finished products, if I have an Epson, I might be left in a position where I have to explain to them, hey, I wasn't able to fulfill your order. So, that is a big factor. If you're in this as a business, then your best bet to really fulfill the needs of your customers is going to be a Sawgrass. Now, I say all this, and you may ask yourself, like, Becky, if you're so in favor of the Sawgrass, why do you own an Epson? Well, because I, typically speaking, do not sell finished items, so I don't have that restriction on me that if I wake up one day and my Epson printer doesn't print, well, I can start saving for a new one, or I can spend a couple days trying to troubleshoot it, or whatever the case may be. That is a big deciding factor for me. If I were to start doing this and selling sublimation items as a business, then perhaps I would invest in a Sawgrass. So these are all questions you need to ask yourself. You need to have that conversation with yourself. There is no right or wrong answer. Whether you get a Sawgrass, whether you get an Epson, of course, you're going to have people who have better experiences with both. Some people don't like Sawgrass and they switch to an Epson. Some people started on an Epson and they upgraded to a Sawgrass. It depends on where you're at in your sublimation journey, how much money you're willing to invest in this journey and the learning process. And then, of course, your troubleshooting capabilities come into play a lot, and your customer base. So have those conversations with yourself and be honest with yourself. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, who else can you be honest with, But if you're on the fence about an Epson, like I said, really dig into those groups and do some Google searches and see the kind of problems that people are facing and decide if that is something you're willing to jump into. So that is my comparison of Sawgrass versus Epson. Of course, there are a lot more details that you can jump into, but this is our basic overview, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. Now, if you have any questions, like I said, I don't actually own a Sawgrass, but I have some pretty good Sawgrass resources, and I'm willing to share those resources with you as far as getting your questions answered and that sort of thing. And, make sure you leave them in the comments below. If you are wanting to know more about sublimation, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out some of the videos we already have out. We try to offer some sublimation inspiration for you. So that's it for today, but I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Hopefully we helped you out, and we will see you again next time. Thanks, guys.